Good morning, everyone. I am Kimberly Dixon. I am your host and your guide for this garden tour on this morning. Welcome to this episode of In the Garden with Joyful Living. So while we wait for a few people to join us, I'm going to go ahead and show you what's happening in the garden this morning. So here is the first yellow pear tomato. You can see it still has lots of green tomatoes on it. But look at this one. Look at this one. It is full of tomatoes. I've been harvesting tomatoes off of it every day this week. And although a couple of weeks ago I trimmed the tops of it, I'm going to trim it again because it's getting too tall for me to reach it. I'm 5'9", so that means I'm not quite 6 feet tall, but I can reach pretty far. But these plants are getting too tall again. And look at that beauty. That is the orange striped tomato. And it's at the point where I will probably pick it today. And the reason I don't let them completely vine ripen is because insects can smell it. Birds like tomatoes. And I don't want anything to get it. But I had my first one on yesterday. That tomato was delicious. Here is the cherry tomato. It's got just a few on it. I don't know if it's gotten too hot for it, but it has definitely slowed down production. You can see that there aren't any flowers or any, and not very many tomatoes on it. Well, we're going to see, because when it gets above 90 degrees, tomatoes don't really like it that well. Here's another yellow pear tomato with some tomatoes on it that are about ready, some green ones and some semi-yellow ones. Look at that. That's a bumblebee. That's every gardener's dream. Good morning, Alfred. Look at all of those cucumbers on there. But I like to show guys these tours because people think you need a lot of land or a lot of space to be able to grow vegetables, and that's not true. Now, this particular cucumber that I just showed you is a Boston pickling cucumber. It is a smaller variety. See all those cucumbers back there? And I just like the taste of the smaller varieties better. This is a muncher cucumber that I planted in succession, so it's a little bit further behind the other one, but it's starting to produce cucumbers too. And luckily I've had enough bees this year to pollinate my stuff. There's some lettuce and marigolds in here, some yarrow. This looks like a chaotic mess. It's a good mess though. Here is my Japanese eggplant. There are lots of eggplant on here. There are 3 in the house that I'm actually going to use today to make eggplant lasagna. Here is my yellow squash. So, as many of you know, this spot used to have potatoes in it, but my potatoes have ripened and I have dug them up, and I was like, I got an empty container, so I did me some yellow squash. Look at those bees in there doing what they're supposed to do, and that squash is developing down there. I eat more zucchini than yellow squash, but I still enjoy it some. Here is my red bell pepper. We've got one on there that's waiting to turn. We've got some flowers. So it'll be a while before I have another full ripe pepper, but I have lots of peppers that are frozen in my refrigerator. In my freezer, rather. Here's my yellow sweet banana pepper. This was some kale. It really didn't do much this season, guys. I couldn't keep the caterpillars off of it, so it is what it is. This is my jalapeno pepper. This baby been getting down. I've been using peppers off of here quite frequently, and that one is just about ready, and you'll know when it's ready because it'll get little striations in it, and there are a bunch in the back. I don't know if you can see them from all the foliage, but if you notice this, I've also got basil in all of these containers too, because it helps keep insects away. Good morning, Catherine. This is my yellow bell pepper. It's got lots of flowers on it where it's developing more peppers, but again, I just did a big harvest of it with 3 peppers. And I know if you've had a traditional garden, you're like, that's not a big harvest. This is a deck garden. It is a small space. I am a family of 1. So I did a big harvest. Here's some more kale. It's doing okay. I've used a little bit from it. So this is my asparagus, which you know, asparagus you only have to plant once a year. Not once, and it produces for 15 to 20 years. But in the spring, I also had spinach here. This was the remnants of some spinach. And at that time, I told you guys I wasn't going to pull it up. I was just going to let it go to seed and see if it produced spinach in the fall. And lo and behold, some of the seeds are sprouting. So I'm sure there are some more back there. So I'll have spinach in the fall that I didn't do anything to get. Here's my collard greens, and look, here are some caterpillars. So as soon as I get off of this live, I will be removing those, if you can see them, because in a day's time they will decimate these plants over here. But I just did a harvest of this, so all of these are pretty young. Strawberry plant that I didn't get anything off of this year because it's producing wonderfully. The squirrels love it though. Oh, I missed one thing. This is a Betterboard tomato that I planted actually in the beginning of July. Luckily in our zone we can do a second round of things in July. Most all plants, I wouldn't do peppers because they just really take a long time. But most anything, you can start another succession cropping of it in July so that you still have vegetables producing well into the fall, unless we have an early fall, but that's not the norm. So that's my morning glory that I planted specifically to invite pollinators to the area. Beautiful little flowers that open in the morning. Look, there's more bumblebees. Y'all, I love bees. I absolutely do. Good morning, cousin. That's Doc. But this is my 3 girls planting section that I did this year for the first time. I'd never done corn, but in the 3 girls, you usually have corn, some type of beans, and then some type of squash. This is a green zucchini. All of that at the bottom. And the purpose that the zucchini serves is corn requires a lot of water. So the zucchini shades the ground with the big leaves so it doesn't dry up as quickly. The plants are not, this is my first time doing corn, and they're not nearly as tall as I thought they should be. I remember going in cornfields as a child, and they were much, much taller. Even riding on the road, you can see the corn is much, much taller. And granted, that has something to do with when it was planted. But as you can see, the beans are searching for something to climb because the corn isn't that tall. And although some ears are developing, I just don't know what's going to happen with the corn. Although that zucchini has been getting down. Beans haven't produced anything. Most of them didn't even come up. I planted an abundance of beans over there, and it should have been beans, vines everywhere, but most of them didn't sprout or either were eaten by the birds. So this morning, I entitled the topic as When Mistakes Happen. So we all have this idea that when we begin gardening, it's going to be this exciting, successful journey. And it is exciting. But I wish I could tell you the number of plants that I have that either die or don't do what I thought they were going to do. They don't produce as much as I thought they would produce, or, you know, it's just weak and sickly. So there are a couple of reasons for that. Sometimes it is human error because plants require different things. Just like in a family, you can have 3 different kids and they'll have 3 different personalities, And they need three different things. They need three different forms of discipline. What works for one won't have an impact at all on the other one. One, giving them time out will be sufficient, but the other one will need something else, because they're just like, I don't care, I'll sit here. But I say all of that to say that when we are gardening, mistakes are going to happen. We are going to, sometimes if you buy a transplant from Lowe's or whatever big box store, or even from a nursery, sometimes you can get a plant that's already sick and you just can't see it. So no matter what you do when you get it home, it just doesn't survive. I wish I could tell you the number of times I've killed a plant. And you do everything you could do. You fed it, you treated it with all natural. I don't use pesticides and fungicides and things of that nature, but treated it all different kinds of ways, and no matter what you do, that plant still dies. So somewhere along the line, a mistake may have happened with the actual human care, or it could have been something defective with that seed to begin with. And that's the same is true in life. Sometimes we're going to make mistakes. But I'm telling you all of this to say that even with your gardening journey, even in life, when mistakes do happen, brush it off and keep going. We are going to make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes in our gardening journey. We're going to make mistakes in life. But you can't let that stop you. Because when I tell you there is nothing more fulfilling than, you see all of this behind me? There is nothing more or joyful than to come out here and have my cup of coffee in the morning. There's nothing more satisfying than to be cooking dinner and be like, oh, I need a green pepper, and come out and pick one. Or making a Mexican style or Spanish dish. And I'm like, oh, some banana peppers or a jalapeno would take this to the next level. Because I'm telling y'all, if you are making just regular tacos or fajitas or whatever, sweet banana peppers, it's a whole different, it just gives it a different flavor profile that is so enriching, and it makes it not so much as you be like, what is that? But just this depth of flavor. That's what it gives it. So there is nothing more satisfying than being able to come out here and pick something and use it immediately at the peak of freshness and ripeness, and use it in a dish right then. Just as I said, I'm going to use a Japanese eggplant to make a lasagna today. I made a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich on yesterday where the lettuce and the tomato came right out from my deck. So even in a small space like this, you can plant enough things where it makes an impact in your household. I have potatoes that are it's in my third bedroom because it's cooler in that. That's the coolest room in the house. And to preserve them longer, put them in a cool spot, because I used to keep them in my laundry room and they would sprout before I could eat them, because I don't eat a whole lot of potatoes. But mistakes are inevitable. And the key is, don't go through life trying to be perfect, because that's a fool's journey. Nobody is perfect. And that is a waste of your time. It will keep you spinning your wheels trying to make sure everything looks perfect, is perfect, trying to be perfect. We are imperfect. We are fallible. We make mistakes. So the best thing to do is let go of that perfectionism. Do the best you can. Years ago, when I was disabled, I read a book. I can't even remember the name of it now. But one of the principles in the book was do your best. And it essentially said, do your best every day and recognize that there's nothing better than your best, and recognize that your best looks different on different days. And when I was disabled, that meant a lot to me, because on some days I felt like I was in the pain was of such that I could go grocery shopping. But on the next day, that wasn't possible because my pain level was higher. But I did my best inside my house. And that is what kept me going. So just do your best. Do your best on your gardening journey. I learned a lot about what size container I need, and what fertilizer I like best, what compost I like best. But guys, that took years. It didn't start out like this. All of you know, most of you know, this started as a single tomato on an apartment patio, but look at what it has become. There have been 1,000,000,001 mistakes. Lots and lots of things have died before you ever even got to see them. But lots of things have survived. I like to run experiments. I'll get plants and I'll do things and I'll read all the literature and it says you need this, this, and this. I'm like, I don't have that, that, and that, but I'm going to try it anyway. And a lot of them have survived. Some of them have died. And this morning, I showed you the corn. It's not doing what I wanted to do. But I'm going to keep trying. Next season, I'm going to plant corn again and hope that I'll be able to have some results with it. Some good results. I don't know what it's going to do. I might get 1 ear or 2, but it's not going to produce the way I wanted it to. But yet and still, the amount of produce that I have gotten from this tiny little spot, that it's just me in this household. I can't possibly eat all of this. But what I can do is share it with my friends and my neighbors and just whoever's in the area. Be like, hey, you want some of this? The man who cuts my yard, I give him peppers quite regularly. But don't give up. Don't stop your gardening journey because something didn't produce the way you thought, something died. Don't give up. Keep trying it. You'll get it. And don't refer to yourself as a brown thumb, because our words have a tremendous amount of power. And if you go into it thinking or assuming I'm going to kill everything you touch, you're going to kill everything you touch. So start with one plant and just take it from there. But guys, thank you for watching this episode of In the Garden with Joyful Living, and recognize that when mistakes happen, brush yourself off and keep going. It's not the end of the world. But guys, I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.